All right, welcome everyone. It is September 16th, 2024. This is the Board of County Commissioners Strategic Planning Meeting. Please let the record reflect that in the conference room, we have Commissioners Jordan, French, and Kearns. We expect to be joined shortly by Commissioner Waldrop online, and Commissioner Cuny is out today. And we are going to jump into some budget discussions here. So I'm going to throw it over to Randy Bischoff, our Director of Finance, and take it away.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. The agenda for today is we have it on the screen. We're going to first talk about some revenue updates. Then we're going to go into conservation futures, which is also a fund that is funded by property taxes. We'll then go into outside agencies today. This is something that is in the general fund, of course, and just looking for direction on either allocations and or processes around that. Then we'll go into the 6-year plan, capital plan, excuse me, along with some special revenue funds that support projects in this 6-year revenue plan. We really don't have any updated supplemental request worksheets to give you today, so we'll skip that one. And then the last one we'll go into is if there's any agencies, we haven't scheduled any yet, but if you would like agencies to schedule and maybe when we want to have those agencies come to us. So with that, the revenue update, right now, the assessor's office has finished their annual new construction, and it is higher than what we had originally used when we put this budget together. It's a little over $1.5 billion, and so we will be getting some updated calculation sheets from the assessor's office this week. So next week, Monday, we expect to bring you an updated budget amount for property taxes. We are also looking at the LECAP. We are finishing that calculation for the 2023 LECAP, and once that is done, we will review that going forward into 25 to make sure we have enough budget for that as well. And there is, with the 2019 Cs that we defeased, we expect to have a little bit of revenue that we record in 2025. And we will update that as well next week. So those are the 3 updates we would probably have next week. The LECAP maybe the week after that. So with that, let's go to conservation futures. Ron, there's a spreadsheet on conservation futures. Conservation futures, of course, is where we buy land for people to conserve it so that it isn't used for development. And in conservation futures, I'll get there. Right now, we have a fund balance at the end of the year will be estimated to be a negative number, and that is, or excuse me, our beginning fund balance was a negative number because we bought some property in 2023 and we borrowed some money to do that. The revenue coming in 24 was budgeted to be $2.3 million. And really there is no purchases in 24. So we will end 24 projected with about a 300,000 fund balance. Next year, estimated property taxes are 2.4 million. That assumes no increase. Actually, I think I might have put a little increase in there. Construction. Nah, there's no increase in that. So that is one where we could do a 1% if you wanted to, or not. Right now, if you scroll down, Ron, there is in the budget to purchase a piece of land for $1.5 million with the salaries and everything. If we do that without a property tax increase, our fund balance will go back to slightly negative. Doesn't mean they don't have the cash because they have a loan that's outstanding. It just means from a fund balance standpoint, we're in the hole because we have borrowed money. And Matt borrowed, I think, was from the
treasure.
treasurer. So that is conservation futures. Any questions you might have that we could either find answers to or maybe able to answer right now?
Where does it go into the negative? Because at the bottom it's positive, or at least on the spreadsheet I have,
Scroll
That's
down,
it.
Ron.
206,000.
I was wrong. It is 206. I thought we went to the next year. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My mistake. It is positive 206.
We're good. Okay.
So we still will be a positive fund balance. They do have more cash because we have the loan with the treasurers. Yes, Commissioner Jordan.
Go for it.
The 2.4 property tax being higher than this year, is that just reflecting new construction?
New construction.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Parts of the county is really growing.
Yeah, we had a great new construction year. There was a lot of construction started in 23 that did not, or 23 that did not get finished until this year. So it's on this year's construction. Per the assessor. A lot of residential multifamily. All right, I think that's all I really had. And again, this is one that will come up again when we go to talk about property taxes, if we want to do a 1% or do any banked capacity on.
Is the 1.5 for land, is that just kind of a general estimate, or is that looking at the list of what might be coming next?
We believe that it's from the list that Parks kind of has and maintains with the Parks Advisory Board. Yeah, there's usually kind of purchases slated well into the future for a 6-year plan.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have different, they go through a prioritization process, the conservation futures, and depending on available funds and when those projects are ready to move forward, that kind of sets up the priority.
I just did not ask what the project was, but we can do that.
That's okay.
No other question on, that's more of a touch point, just to note, let you know where we're at. Like I said, we can always address it further when we do property tax, whether we take 1% or not. It is a small tax, so 1% doesn't give us a large increase. The next slide we'll go over, Ron, is the outside agencies. And on this, it's a spreadsheet that if you guys, that in your time, when you go back, you can download this. But we've basically put a allocation target in here of 3.215 million. And this is where we need to determine who we're, or what we're giving it to. You don't have to spend it all. If you spend more, that comes out of any excess that we were talking about to use for supplemental requests. Again, this includes things like the health district. We have Wasac in here. I have not heard from Commissioner CUNY what increase, if any, there will be in Wasac.
Waco in 2024, we did distribute to the other elected officials, so you do not need to plan a budget for that for 2025 again.
Yeah, we did let each of the elected officials that were affected by that know what their charge or their estimated charge for 2025 was going to be. We did receive a letter from Waco as to what their increase was going to be. So, we've got the federal lobbyist in there, so I don't know if you guys want to discuss that today and or the process. You know, do you want to go out to the community? Do you want to? Last year, we did have a application process that was run by the grants department. If you would like to do the same thing, we can do that again this year. I believe, Mike Burgess's, contract, is that not expiring at the end of this year? No,
That was a 5-year and 21. So
Fine, okay. So we're good through, okay. So we're good through 25 at least. Okay. Yes,
Commissioner Waldref, I see you've joined us. You had mentioned that at the last finance committee for the health district, they threw out some numbers kind of shifting from TB and kind of general fund.
Right.
Differently, what, can you share with us what those were?
Well, the initial proposal is a flat ask from the 2023 budget. So it'd be the same amount from the health district, although that was just the first conversation. But it would be the same amount total with TB, the same amount that was asked for from the county in 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having some trouble. My computer charger broke, and so I'm trying to join via phone. Sorry about that.
so if I heard that correctly, you're saying they're asking for the same 2.471, but only expect TB to be 266.5.
The TB may be going up, but they are adjusting their general down. So whatever the total in 2023 between TB and the general allocation to the health district, it would be the same. The initial proposal is the same total amount, and there's still conversations, ongoing.
We are, from our standpoint in the budget office, we are seeing their TB bills run lower than their 24 budget request. They are running very similar to 2023 actually. So that would be interesting. So you may want more information on that, but that's what we're seeing right now. We were, if you did, going to reach out for some TB numbers.
Yeah, we did reach out to the health district to engage with the program manager to get some more insights on what TB kind of is looking like. And I think we'd been informed that there was potentially an additional staff member they were going to hire for that program, an additional nurse to help engage individuals with TB and supporting them. So we weren't sure kind of where that's landed, but they keep reminding us that cases are on the rise, but we're definitely not seeing the actual costs related to that as of kind of a month-to-month basis so far this year.
Yeah, so that they did hire 2 nurses. So now there's 2 full-time, and that was why there was a huge jump from 23 to 24. And so we did request, our budget committee at the health district did request more information about how that's going. How are the 2 full-time nurses able to manage the cases? So we should be getting some more information on that in next week or this week or next week. But so basically my understanding from last week's initial conversation was 2.471 would be the same. It'd be the same ask, a little bit more for TB, but a little bit less in general support. So we will get more information on the TB and find out. That's strange that maybe they didn't hire the second nurse until like halfway through the year or something. So maybe that's why the bills haven't come in as high. I don't know.
We'll look into. Scott?
So the 3.2 million is what is in the preliminary budget right now. We all know that we've asked the departments to hold flat with last year with their budget, which is challenging given wages and other inflationary things are pushing them up. Is there an interest by the board for these outside agencies to signal to them that maybe there's a need for them to drop some of their asks or indicating that the board may not be able to support them at the same level? Probably having if that's the desire, having those awarenesses early for them as they're going through their financial evaluation probably is gonna be helpful. There's gonna be a number of supplemental asks that the departments will be coming in for, so just throw that out there for some consideration.
And then Ron, if you'll keep scrolling down a little, in the second portion of this sheet, there's the economic development section. We have set, based on kind of some good estimates, the amounts for the different PDAs, what we anticipate our settlements with them will be for 2025. And then there is about $249,000 that can be allocated to the other economic development type groups listed below.
Scroll down a little bit, Ron.
So that's things like GSI, MAC, chamber dues, things like that. Again, you know, you can allocate between the top and the bottom if you want. These are just some preliminary numbers that we have in here.
Yeah, Gary, go for it.
So I know that we have participated with the Advantage Spokane website. Do we have any idea whether we're getting any juice out of that or not, or is it just a token gesture?
Pat might be able to talk to if he's on. I know at one point he felt the traffic was pretty good, but we don't know if it is a casual looky-loo traffic, people opening websites, or if it's meeting its final goal. I know that GSI was going to reevaluate it this year. We actually paid it in two chunks, half and half. There was some talk about it might go away as of mid-year. I've not heard anything more about that since Gary Field was. You know, like as far as our pages go, they only were responsible to update them ourselves.
Yeah.
And so usually once or twice a year, we go and find some new facts and figures and update them. It's a nicety, I don't know if it's a necessity.
Do we know what other jurisdictions are still paying in? Cause I remember when they rolled it out, what was it like 5-6 years ago, something like that?
Yeah, it's
I
been a
think
while.
it was sort of every city,
Everybody
the
was flying in.
county, all the PDAs, like everybody was throwing in some money. And then you had your page on that website that was sort of your jurisdiction's responsibility to update, but I don't even, I'd be very interested to know how many of the cities have dropped off, how many of the PDAs, I don't think any PDA has a page on, or don't pay for one anymore. But it'd be interesting to know sort of who still is funding their one page on that website, so. I don't know.
Certainly put the request out to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I know there was a couple years where the PDAs were providing some financial support, not a lot. I don't think it's continuing, but.
No, well, well, anyway, I don't want to beat the horse to death, but I'm just not sure that we're getting the value that we thought we were going to get out of it. And if it hasn't been replaced by other initiatives, yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Who is on Priority Spokane on our board? Is that you? Do they still need?
Yeah.
They do, okay.
They pick childcare for their priority. So
Okay.
they're kind of actively trying to shape a program on that.
Okay.
I have the list here. It's Cheney, Liberty Lakes, Spokane City, Spokane Valley, Downtown Partnership, the Valley Chamber, Kalispell Tribe, Northeast PDA, Airport, U District PDA, Visit Spokane, West Plains Chamber, and SBR. Those are the ones that have their own unique pages. I can't tell you if they're all paying for them or not. So
I'm
essentially
pretty
the
sure-
cities, the counties, the PDAs.
I'm pretty sure any PDA doesn't pay for theirs.
So too.
So I'm thinking they've just left pages on, is my guess.
Very possible. Those are the ones that are listed.
just a clarification.
Yep.
On all of these outside agencies, do all of the organizations resubmit a request every year in writing, or how does it get into this draft stage where you're estimating numbers?
That is a question, if you want us to put it out like we did last year, for those outside agencies to apply. I know last year that like the children's waiting room, they applied for more. We had an application process. If you would like us, we will start that same application process this year so that those requests can come to you directly that way. Or if you know, or if you want to just set numbers, you can. But we have not started that this year yet, but we could get that started this week if the commissioners would so desire that type of process.
It's kind of like a birthday. It happens every year. And so, you know, it just,
But some of them are set by a, like kind of a formula, like,
yeah.
like aging and long-term care in Eastern Washington, that's set based on a number and then just, it might be population per jurisdiction is a certain amount per person in your jurisdiction or something like that. Is Clean Air similar?
Yeah, Clean Air, it's similar, it's by population
Okay.
and so. And you know, the other thing, and you'll notice that between 22 and 23, there's a pretty good bump there. And part of that's because the feds have been cutting back on funding. And you know, so we had to make up for that. So that's one of the reasons why it jumped up.
Generally based on most of these are based on their budgets, right? They set their
Yeah.
budgets and then some of them do formulaic allocations.
Yeah, the challenge for Clean Air is a lot of the things that we do are federally mandated. Or very, very few by the state, but the majority of it's federally mandated. And so if we don't do it, the alternative is we shut down the Clean Air and we turn over everything to EPA, and then you've got a nightmare and stuff. And so many years before I got here, they decided we would rather be in control of the agency at the local level than having the feds control us. So that's, but there is, I mean, if we reach the point where we just said, you know, hey, we're done, turn it over to the feds, you can do that, but then problems increase exponentially.
When would you like us to kind of go through some of these?
I guess we can
report
go
back,
through them
or-
next week if you want to spend some time. If you'd like us to start the application process for the lower ones, we could get that started this week. If you would like us to, and maybe put a 2-week time frame on that for agencies to get back.
Okay.
If you would like.
Thoughts? What do you guys think?
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking that along Scott's comment, it might be good to send out a letter saying we're in a tough budget situation. Please resubmit
Yeah.
your request with, you know, being as fiscally cautious as you can. We may not save that much doing that, but it's just, I'm just trying to think of a process that might send a clear message.
I'm kind of concerned also, it is a tight budget year. And if we open up some sort of portal to like, hey, apply to get money, but we're gonna, are we sending mixed messages there? Like, you know, a bunch of people, oh, the county's got money, but it's like,
Well, I was thinking
not that much.
to send it out to those who were previously.
Have been for it, yeah.
Just an idea. I
No,
don't know.
I think that makes sense, but I don't know, do we wanna do any like, open it up to the community of like, hey, apply if they've never applied or never received, I don't know if that's necessarily the route way we wanna go, but you know, I think you're right about sort of our, I don't know, legacy recipients, the ones that have, you know, Chase Youth Commission, you know, stuff like that, who have received year after year after year, yeah, we should probably be upfront with them as early as possible.
Well, and if we are gonna reach out, and we talked about this a couple of years ago, is instead of just giving an organization some money to fund their operation, to become much more strategic in terms of saying, identify the programs that you are proposing for this year. What are the metrics for the success? What is the goal? And so we're not just funding generalities, but we're actually working toward achieving a specific outcome. And that the outcome will then be a metric that we use for subsequent years for funding. So we never, to my knowledge, I don't know that we ever did that, but we talked about it and stuff, because some of these agencies that just said, well, give us money because you did last year, and we got no idea what they're doing with it. So
Yeah.
maybe it's time to hold them accountable.
Well, last year I brought forward at least one, we'd all have groups that we'd love to find some money to support, but we're probably just not in a position to be able to add this year.
Yeah,
That's just the reality.
I don't see us adding, I see us fighting to hang on. And some of them will probably get a shave.
There's probably only 5 or 6 on it. Probably send a letter like that. It's not like everyone. I would imagine in the smaller dollar ones, bike swap, not just unity in the community. Those I'm assuming you probably will just, even some of the chamber dues, you guys will probably independently do some decisions here based on funding. But as I'm looking through here, probably GSI, children's waiting room, health district, clean air. It's probably only about a half a dozen or so that you probably send it out to.
Yeah, I don't think we would probably need to lower the amount that we give to the West Plains Chamber, the Valley Chamber, the Deer Park Chamber. I mean, those are very low dollar amount already. And,
Yeah.
but then their membership dues,
Yeah.
essentially.
You may have lower levels of membership dues you could do, but that's again.
So we, you don't like for I-90 Aerospace Conference and Expo, we did contribute to that this year.
Yeah, we just showed in this spreadsheet what the budget amount was. We had it all in miscellaneous last year at 17.7. But we did contribute, I believe it was 2,500 to them again. I believe we also did Ignite Northwest. I could be wrong on that one, but
We did.
I think we did Ignite.
We did do it this year. We did it last, or we did it 24, we did in 25, but we didn't in 24.
And just so the board knows, I sent them a document to reapply, which I haven't received yet. So that's been a while.
And if I remember correctly, I think one of the issues with Ignite last was they reached out like the second week of December
Yeah.
last, just like the week after we adopted our budget saying,
But it was
hey,
closed.
we'd like to do, and it's like, ooh, oh no. So,
Yeah.
well, if everybody would take time over the next week and kind of go through this spreadsheet.
and we will draft some letters to reach out to those targeted. Okay,
So just a question
Yes.
for you, under the bikes, swaps, unity in the community, all that. WCAA, is that the West Coast Athletic Association? I'm not sure what that is.
It's the Washington, I believe it's the Wasatch County Administrators Association.
Ah, okay, that's right. All right, thank you.
Well, I thought we'd had discussion about the bike swap previous year, like, I know, I mean, not a huge dollar amount, but we also. I know it's kind of enterprise fund, but they get the use of the fair for free, right? So there is sort of that in-kind contribution coming from the county or a county department when they hold that event too, so. Something just to keep in mind there.
Well, don't we do the same thing for the ski swap too? Ski equipment, I mean, that,
sure.
we do that at the fairgrounds too, I remember.
It's at the fairgrounds.
It's
But
at
I'm
the
not
fairgrounds.
sure
Yeah, I
if
don't-
Erin
I
has
don't
any
know if
selected
it's-
rates. Sometimes she offers
Okay.
groups.
Community organizations, if we can find out.
All right.
And Unity in the community, I don't think that's necessarily a sponsorship at $1,000. I think that's, we buy a booth that's valued at $1,000, I think, so.
And I believe we've funded both of those items this year, but we just put all the budget into one line.
Okay.
For dissemination throughout the year.
All right.
Next on our list is the 6-year capital plan. So Ron, if you want to pull up the spreadsheet to start with. I'll let Tessa, who's very intimately knowledgeable of this one, go through it.
So we've listed here all of the 6-year capital project requests that we received from different departments and agencies. Some of these are general fund departments, some are other funds like the fair and expo. We've got IT on here as well. So this is kind of a holistic approach. This lists projects for all 6 years, if they submitted anything, as well as the kind of annual cost breakdown that they submitted. If you scroll farther over to the right a little further, keep going, keep going, keep going. There is the funding source breakdown, which is basically kind of the decision guide template. So this is only matching the items requested for 2025 funding, not all projects for all years. So you only need to make decisions related to 2025, but we thought it would be most helpful to see all projects listed. So you can kind of see that if you start something now, there may be future year impacts, or there may be projects in future years that we'd rather save up some money for and not spend everything in 2025.
And you'll see that a lot, like in parks or fairgrounds where it may be a multi-year project. So we're trying to give you a overview of the whole project, but just asking for those that you do approve where the funding source for 2025 is going to be. Also, you'll see Tessa has grayed out certain boxes in the funding. That means though you cannot use that funding source for those items.
And then at the very top there, you'll see REIT 1 and REIT 2 have dollar amounts. Those are available resources to be allocated. They are directly tied to two kind of slides in, there's a capital requests project PDF. And so you will see those amounts tied there, so you can we can determine how we've derived those.
Is that the total dollar amount available in each one of those, or just what you're recommending as a cap for this year?
I would say it's a recommended cap because we are leaving 3 million in there for 2 years of
Right.
debt service.
Good.
Yep, so yeah, we've
Okay.
preserved 2 years of ongoing funding for both sources. And we can walk through that when we get to those PDFs.
Okay, great,
Yep.
thanks.
So yeah, actually in REIT 1, we have just over $10 million, but we are holding back 2 years of debt service. Because as you know, REIT varies based on what's going on
Yeah.
through the assessors or through the treasurer's office and the auditor's office, so.
Okay, thank you.
And there should be a corresponding project description in this PDF that we'll get to in a minute that matches all of these titles, so you can read for further information if the title isn't sufficient enough.
And for special revenue, we've been using that column for things such as ARP, if there was ARP dollars associated with it. We do have the $1.2 million of credit enhancement that we will have available to us this year. That can only be used at the fairgrounds. So as we remember that, that is some additional special revenue that we do have for next year. it could be things such as one of the ones we're gonna be talking about is historic preservation that is typically used in facilities when you're repairing the courthouse. So those are the special revenue things, grants and then general fund. So that is the spreadsheet. These are the requests. We do have, in addition, as Tessa said, we have all the PDFs from each of the departments as they requested, which and some of those go into more detail. Some do not, but we've just put down as they've requested.
Let me qualify this. I'll be surprised if you have this, but I'm gonna ask for it anyway. And this might be an unachievable ask, but of the projects that are listed here, do you have a sense of urgency about any of them? I mean, for instance, Scraps HVAC is ready to crash, and if we don't replace it, we're gonna be in dire straits, or, you know, Geiger control of, we don't replace it, they're gonna be swimming in water. I mean, is there any sense, can you provide for us any sense of urgency, even if it's like just on a scale of, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the scale of what you think the urgency is?
That's a great question. And I guess today I would say I don't have that across
Yeah, I'd be surprised if you did,
the
yeah.
county. Each area did prioritize their requests. But for example, in detention services with Geiger fire code updates, I think that's a bigger discussion that we'll be having
Yeah.
coming up, because as you will see in there, there's a lot of Geiger capital projects
Saw that.
that are needed. So that is a further discussion that we'll be having on that, and those may come off or they may be very urgent. For example, I think they only have one boiler out there right now. And if that goes and it's winter time, that's probably a very urgent thing. But if it lasts, maybe we can limp along, so.
Yeah, well, that would help in terms of just saying, you know, this has to be funded because you've got no choice otherwise, kind of a deal, okay?
We will work,
Kind of work through.
There's probably some descriptions in the submissions, but probably some of that information, but I'm looking at a couple right now and there's not like this. So we could actually ask them to supplement that and say, give the board an idea of the level of urgency. Is this
Yeah.
failing in a year? Is it
And
a
we
5
tried
year?
to have departments also contextualize whether the request is related to a safety concern. You know, yeah, the roof collapsing is probably a major safety concern and a reason to act. Whereas, you know, it might be a nice to have thing for cosmetic reasons. So we tried to have departments add that on their requests if they were able to.
Sure, it's something really obvious. I'm just CSP.
Central steam plant.
Oh, wasn't obvious.
So that is the,
Okay, good.
that's the boiler to hot water
Okay,
conversion conversation.
gotcha.
And yeah, if you have any other, PSB would be the public safety building. BCB is the Broadway Center building. Public Works building, and then ADB is adult detention building. If there's any other, yeah, acronyms, let us know.
All right.
so as you know, this is your first time seeing the 6-year capital plan. And as I said, we do have 4 different special revenue funds that play into this. The first one, Ron, if you want to pull up, is REAP 1.
So it's all in that capital request roll up PDF run.
Just kind of go through, you know, what the uses are, what you can use it for, where the balances came from. REIT one, scroll to the next page, Ron. Wow, that is hard to read. This is just kind of giving you a history of the REIT one, where it goes to. We have 3 different loans that we are paying out of REIT one, which is why we've left 3.7, nearly $3.7 million in the fund. If you were to look at the fund balance, we're entering the year projected with and I can't see that
Six.
far, thank you, 9.6, adding 3 million to it roughly, so we would have like 12.6, but we have some debt that we're committed to. And then that's where that 7 million comes in, is the annual capacity and the fund balance capacity. Because we are leaving an ending fund balance of $3.7 billion. Good thing I have a new contact in today. And that is for 2 years going forward of the debt service that we committed out of this. Again, this can be used, you could use this for other debt if you want to, but that's kind of showing what your capacity is. Right now, we're expecting to get in about 3.5 billion here going forward. That's REIT one, shows where you've used it, where you've committed it to. For example, Liberty Lake Park, we've committed $682,000 to this year. We have Big Lake property acquisition, $1 million. Plants Ferry Stormwater, $1 million, and campus expansion and remodels, 2.3 million we put in there. Now, we may not use that all this year. If so, then that would roll over to next year, or you could slide that over to next year as well. If we go to the next page, should be REIT two.
And real quick, I'll just, there's the capacity subtotal of $7.6 million. That is what is at the top of your decision kind of matrix there. Next tab, Ron. There you go.
Okay.
No, you're on a roll. Keep going.
All right, so this is your REIT two. A lot of this is used for parks projects, things like that, but we're trying to show you continuations. For example, Liberty Lake Regional Park and REIT two. You use some for that project in 22, 23, and right now it's going full swing in 24. So we expect that project to be completed in 24. This is how much of REIT two has been committed to it for that project. And this is an example of where you can have a project that spans multiple years. And that's what we're trying to give you the view to see the whole project and how it is spread out, versus just saying I'm making a decision for this year and, oh, I've started the project and I'm going to need more money next year, but we're not thinking about that. So this is to allow you to have that in mind as you start saying, we want to do this project. Scroll down a little bit more. This is where the annual capacity on this. Again, we only have the one debt service on that, and that was for golf courses. We have fund balance capacity of 2.4 million here. We have annual capacity of, is that 2.9 or 2.1? 2.9, giving us total capacity this year of 5.3, 5.4, which is what you also see on that other spreadsheet. And again, if you use all of the fund balance capacity, then we're going to have less capacity going forward on an annual basis. So what's the next slide?
And then it's after that, it's all the department requests.
Oh, so next, want to go to the car rental tax if you can, Ron. In car rental tax, it's going to be used for youth sports facilities. It can be used for debt. The legal uses are at the very top there. We do have, we use it for Avista M&O. We have also used it for Plants Ferry M&O. In the past, we have given Spokane Sports Commission money out of this. This is where the 5-year agreement that expired in 23 came out of. This is where the 1-year extension for 24 will be. Again, we've not put anything in there for 25. One big use of this, as you see in 25, we'll probably have a fund balance of a little over $1 million. Plus we'll get about 800,000 next year. But I know one of the big projects we have is Plants Ferry. This is where some of this money could be used for that as well. And I believe Scott is going to say we will need to use some of this money for that as well.
Yeah.
So as we are going through that capital project spreadsheet, this again is going to be one of those special revenues that we can use to fund that project.
The Parks team is getting close to their validation with their progressive design build team. So they're gonna be having a number of options of the number of turf fields, how much lighting, the access road, parking. Those are gonna be some of the options they'll come back with and have some, here's what 1, 2, 3 fields will cost, here's what lit fields will cost, here's what, that sort of thing. So have a sense of where the delta might be and how far the board wants to go with funding that project.
The next one is going to be historical preservation. Historical preservation can also be used.
Ron, could you pull up the historic preservation? Yeah, please.
Here's historical preservation. Through 2024, there was an agreement with the city to send $40,000 per year to the city of Spokane historical preservation. That expires in 2024. I do know they have sent a request into the commissioners for 2025 with some suggestions for 25 and beyond. The other thing that this fund is used for is repairs to the courthouse, since it is a historical building. I will note that $500,000 for the exterior of the courthouse that is pegged for 25 may not actually come out until 26, but Gil has applied for $1 million state grant with a 50% match. And in 24, when he did this, the commissioners committed up to committed to $500,000 of the funds from this fund to be used for that. So that earmark is still in here, just so that we do not forget about it. There are, as I'm sure Gil will tell you, a number of updates we need to do to this building. A large one that is not imminent, but will be coming up in the
It's listed on the 6-year plan, but 2030 is even maybe too soon.
But that will be the tile roof on the courthouse. So, and this fund wouldn't even put a dent in that one. So, depending on what the historical preservation lets us do. So anyway, there's that fund. Again, you have a little bit of money in here, about 148,000 that we're estimating through the end of next year. Again, that could be used for courthouse updates to the historical preservation of this building and or payments to the city of Spokane Historical Preservation, which has made a request to the board. But we are currently out of contract as of the end of this year. Is that correct, Chris? Am I right on that?
For the historic preservation.
Yeah.
And I actually have their redlined draft I'm working on right now. They are initially asking for 53 thousand for 25, 26, and 27, or slowly increasing. So 51. Let's see, 50,000, 51,000, 53,000, and then increasing. So they're proposing an agreement from 25 through 29 with,
Like 2% increases or
yeah,
something.
after the initial kind of 10,000 jump from 24 to 25.
And I did have a conversation with Megan Duvall with historic preservation about that this was going to be a tight year. And we might be doing well if we can just hang on to what we paid them last year. You can see that 22 was 20,000, 23 was 60. It's because we were catching up for the
We had
20,
a
for the
catch up,
40.
yeah, we had a.
Yeah, But we've been trending about 40,000 with them. And she said, well, you know, we're gonna do a lot more in the county. And I said, well, God bless you, but you know, I only got so many dollars in the piggy bank. So.
We're not building more historic. So. They haven't done them yet. They haven't done them yet. Come on.
So,
Again, those are things that this can be used for, either that preservation office, or it can be used for matches or repairs to the courthouse.
you know, I will say that Megan and her team are doing a really good job with regard to historic preservation. I mean, she's probably got that office running better than I've ever seen it run. So it's not a reflection on her of what they're doing. It's more a reflection. That's what I told her. It's more a reflection of where we're at budget wise. So.
And this is built with that surcharge on the auditor's records, and of course, recordings are down, which is why the annual contributions to this are down. And that is all of the outside agencies. These are the four that kind of relate to your capital 6-year plan. As you go through that and start thinking about that, we will get back to you with some prioritizations or critical items that department see. Get back to you on that. Two other things that we have for today. We're kind of zipping through this a lot quicker. One is we've had a request, and we'll bring it back next week to the commissioners. We've had a request from the commissioners to look at the number of FTEs by agency from 2019 through today. That Jason's working on it right now. What we will show in that is the number of filled and or vacant positions at year end for 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And we will show that same information as of 9/3 of this year. We had to pick a point, and so we used the most recent payroll period ending. It'll also show you the total number of employees, so you can see if that department has increased employment, decreased employment over that period of time. As you start looking at, we can't afford, well, we may not be able to afford everybody's supplemental request. This is just another piece of data for you as you're making those decisions. So we will have that to you next week. It'll probably be later this week. We'll get that out, I'm guessing. Right now, I would guess Wednesday or Thursday. I think Jason's pretty close on that right now. So, but that's what he's focusing on in addition to the presentation for next Tuesday. The last thing that we had for today, I'm not sure if the commissioners are ready to go through the agency sheet at all yet. But if you are, we can go into that after this. But the next thing I had was, which agencies do we know we want to have make presentations to the board? And when do you want those presentations to happen? So we can reach out to them and let them get ready. Right now, we have set aside every Monday going forward. We will cancel if we don't have anything to really talk about, but we do have all Mondays. I know some of you have had some time to delve into the budget binder. I'm not sure if everyone has. But if you know agencies you want to come forward now, we could start working on getting that schedule out. So I'll leave that, that's a question for you guys. And one last thing, I will, it says no comments on favor.
Oh, I'll throw some, I mean, do you want us to throw out names right
Yes.
now? Okay, do you wanna go? I would say sheriff. The other big, well, sheriff, prosecutor. Just based on kind of the lack of detail on the spreadsheet we were given. I wanna have them in. Anybody else can jump into while I'm breezing over my sheet here, but those are two that I would like, are sheriff and prosecutor.
Maybe clerk's office.
I think clerk would be a good one. Juvenile, they had a pretty big ask here too.
I'd like to hear from detention. Just obviously their size and how they've decided to kind of balance and what that trade-off looks like.
I'd ask Superior Court. I mean, to me, everything else I thought was pretty straightforward on the information asked, or, you know, based on what they were asking for. Sorry.
And if the commissioners do have any clarifying questions when reading through some of the materials, Randy and I are more than happy to take a first stab at it. Otherwise, we'll very honestly answer that it would probably be best to have the department come in and explain further if we don't feel we have a handle on the request.
One other thing I would like to bring up to the commissioners is if there was if the commissioners would like to change the arrangement with community cooperative extension, excuse me, that if that is not, we have until October 1st to notify WSU, otherwise the current contract will continue through 2025. So if you want that topic to be addressed, we have a couple weeks to do that in. It doesn't mean we have to have it finished, it just means we need to put them on notice that we need to review their contract. That's the only contract department that I can think of that impacts us. So Scott, sorry.
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's whether you decide to or not, I would recommend we send them a notice letter that it's not just gonna automatically renew. As the board is reviewing the budget. Yeah, so.
I would agree. I mean, I know it's something we've touched on briefly in years past, but I mean, if we don't, and honestly, I'd love to be able to get an honest answer of if we don't fund it, does that mean it goes away? Does that mean the program, or would that just mean that WSU or the state would fill that gap? And I don't know if we've ever received a number on that. I mean, are we just covering an expense for the state?
Looks like Kat might have an answer.
WSU is mandated to have it. So if we don't fund it, they still have to have it. They are talking about changing the dynamic of it. I met with the assistant dean, WSU, about a month ago, and their plans are to try and go to some sort of regional model, which is gonna kind of change the dynamic of how the WSU extensions are managed anyway. So there's gonna be a lot of change whether you fund it or not, but they are mandated by RCW to have the extension program. Now, that doesn't mean that it might not affect specific programs or that sort of thing, but WSU is actively put together a committee, which I am a part of, to kind of realize a different vision for the extension management in a regional type model.
And just to remind the commissioners, in addition to the money we pay them, we do have 2.2 employees, full-time and 2 6/10 employees out there. And we do give them the space. We do not charge them for the space they are in. So our cost is more than just the budget amount. So
And the budget amounts about
a little over $500,000 for everything, for the payment to that. The payment to that to WSU is right around 300,000. The 2.2 employees and then supplies. Total is a little over $500,000.
Is there a history to, I mean, I know it's not just us, but is there a history across when the counties decided to pick up this cost? Was this 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago? I mean, at what point did counties pick up that expense?
That I do not know.
It just seems odd.
I know they are mandated to do it because of their land grant college.
But the
Not
counties
all-
aren't
Not
mandated.
all counties
No.
actually contribute
No.
to WSU extension.
It's
Really?
quite the mixed bag across
A lot
the
of them
state.
don't?
when you look at
Oh, I didn't know
Very
that.
nice.
Oh, okay.
Some provide only staff, some have just, it's quite the
Interesting.
spread.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I think it's more of those counties that have ag-based industries. You
Okay.
know, we've got a significant part of the county that's ag-based. I mean, I think it's either one of our top, it's either our top export or one of our top exports out of the county is ag.
Yeah.
And that's why we do it, but my guess is Ponderay, Ferry, they don't,
Okay.
because they're pilt and they're also, all forest.
Cause I remember this was, I don't know, 4 years ago or something, we had Gary come in
Mhm.
and he presented on their programming and
Yeah.
then you asked a question, you said, where do you provide these services? And then he came back with sort of a map of the
Map of
county
every-
with pinpoints on where it was. And not a lot of it was in the ag areas, a lot of it was centered in the city of Spokane.
They do a lot of master gardener.
Oh, it was the Master
Master
Gardener?
Gardener's program.
Yes.
That was the other part of
There,
it,
there
yeah.
wasn't not that there was no work done
And then
out
there's
in
like
the
food sense.
rural areas, but there were a lot of those programs that were not what you'd consider the agricultural areas where they were doing this work, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can definitely get off if a letter to WSU Commissioner Wish, just let them know we need to renegotiate that contract. Before we go forward into 2025. Got 6 departments listed right now. If you would like, we could schedule 2 for the 30th, the 7th and the 14th. Those are the upcoming Mondays. That gives them a week, 2 weeks before the first presentation, maybe give them some more time. I mean, we could do it next week if you would like, as we have a light agenda for next week. But if you want to give them 2 weeks, 2, 3, and 4 weeks, we can, and then see what works for those departments. Any others, of course, we can always add on. We can do more than 2 in a day if you would prefer, or however you commissioners would prefer to do that. If you'd like to do 3 for the next 2 weeks, we can do that as well. To give you more time to make decisions.
Next Monday, I've got a hard stop at 11. I've got a speaking engagement.
Do we want to do the public defender's office as well, if we're doing the prosecutor's office? I'm just looking at the general fund.
They can defend
Yes.
themselves.
And I've seen lots of adjustments to targets. I'm just trying to think of how we're gonna resolve those. Do we need to have every single one in that has an adjustment to target? I don't know.
Well, I thought when I looked at public defender, I thought it was pretty clear what it is they're asked for, you know? So I mean, it was the caseloads, I mean, there's a dollar and then vacant positions, they have another, so I mean, that's what they would get, so, I mean, I don't know, if you would like them to come, I'm not gonna say I don't want that, I mean, I'm fine with them coming in, but I thought they made it clear on what they were asked for, but we can have them in. It was some of those other departments I thought were a little vague on their descriptions.
Yeah.
Miscellaneous. So it's.
Well,
Little
we can
vague.
start with the list we have and add to it if we need to.
You will.
Oh, go ahead.
Just another thought too is whether you have the department in or not, your choice. We could still schedule some time to go through. And just review department by departments with the board, and then you guys might say, hey, you know, based on this, we should probably have them come in. So we could set some
Right.
of our times for just reviewing through all the requests.
I know some of you have done that already. If more have not, maybe that is something we could do next Monday, is go through the balancing, which may lead to more questions and more departments that you want to bring in. Unless you want to do that today, and we can do that today as well.
Next Monday, I've got a medical conflict at 10 a.m. Just FYI. So it's a little bit of a tough day for a couple of us, it
Yeah.
sounds like.
Then let's not do it next month.
Amber's maybe wanting to chime in.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it would be good to get more information from the departments that haven't done the exercise of going through their budget and looking at what, like, if they were to, you know, eliminate 2 positions or not fill 5 positions, you know, what would the impacts be to that? Not necessarily budget impacts. You know, we know if you remove some of those positions, you would lower their budget. But what would be the safety impacts, you know, if we left more deputy positions unfilled? I guess I'm wondering, is that still the expectation? Like, half the departments have gotten back and said, here's what we would adjust. Here's what the implications would be of that, right? If we fill less detention officer, you know, positions. Are we still waiting to hear back from the other departments heads about, you know, the budget, and if they were to eliminate certain positions, what that would mean, you know, in terms of processing court documents, et cetera? Because that would be really good information for me to have,
Yeah.
you know?
If they're
So I-
blank, yeah, if they're blank, does that mean they didn't do the exercise, or they're just I know you said sheriff is working on getting his numbers to us. And some of the other
I believe
departments-
that is true. I will be meeting with under Sheriff Ritchie later today.
But some of the other departments, does it mean they didn't complete the exercise, or they are just
Some of
willing
them
to
are willing
accept
to
the cut?
accept the cut and
Okay.
live with a reduction.
Okay,
Some did not complete the exercise, I would say.
that's a mix.
Yes.
Okay.
It just seems like, and I understand, like with the prosecutors, I get it. They want to fill the positions. We're increasing the wages because we want to fill the positions. But it would be good to know, okay, well, if they were to make this particular budget cut, or even a partial budget cut, what are the implications? You know, well, we can't fill these 3 positions, and then our caseloads are going to go up, and we're going to lose more attorneys, or whatever the argument is. It would be nice to get that on paper. The negative impacts, and it would be a good process. So, you know, I know some of the other electeds at the county have reached out to some of us about, you know, I just don't think I can make any cuts. Well, I appreciate that, and maybe I would agree with them, but it would be good to go through the exercise to say, you know, I just respect that the detention services went through the exercise. And they said, well, we could do this, we could do this, we could do that. But these could be the negative implications, like more overtime or other things. So anyway, as we schedule out these departments, it would sure be nice to have that information so we can have a real dialogue with them about pros and cons of making adjustments. So that's just so I think, but I like the idea of giving a couple weeks so we can do that before we get started with those presentations.
Then did you want to do 2 or 3 on a Monday? We started with 6, knowing that it's gonna be a short budget season. We can do 3. 3 takes us to the middle of October, which is around the time we're doing public roundtable number 2, which only gives you about another 3 to 4 weeks to finalize the budgets. I know 3 is a lot of departments to listen to, so it's like,
So 3 a day
Yeah.
as opposed to 2 a day?
right. So we can do 2, right now you have 6 departments, and this may grow depending on next week's conversation. You could do, if you did 2 a day for 3 weeks, that takes us to mid-November, October. If we did 3 over 2 weeks, that would take us to October 7th, so.
I'm fine either way.
I say we try 3 because,
Yeah.
I mean, cause there's lots of times we way overshoot. We think
Yeah,
we're gonna spend an hour and a half with, and we end up spending 35 minutes with it, yeah, cause we get our questions answered. I mean, but I'd say we shoot for 3. If for some reason one of those days we go way long, we bump someone to the next week and but I'd say we plan to do more
Okay.
than less, because yeah, that's the worst situation is you spend 30 minutes with each, we're done in an hour, and it's like, well, too bad we didn't ask somebody to come in behind them.
And like today's scheduling 2 hours, an hour 15, right?
Yeah, so I'd say go with 3, and if it doesn't work, we bump somebody.
I think it gives you more flexibility to add more next week also.
I don't know what the terminology is, the lady in the basement at Public Works, like that. Is that a trainer or physical therapist
Oh,
or,
Julie Tanani.
so
That's how you pronounce it.
what,
Wellness.
okay.
Yeah.
Is that
It's
something,
a contract paid for out of the medical fund.
okay, is it, okay, okay,
It's
cause
got out of the general fund.
okay, and I know we had asked last year in the discussion to kind of have her track the amount of work and the number of folks, I mean,
I believe HR, I worked on that with her.
Yeah, that's a contract managed by
Okay.
HR, so
okay,
Ashley's had most of the involvement with that, so
okay,
we can
Alright.
certainly have that.
Okay.
Provided.
all right.
So that's all I had scheduled for today. If you want to take some time and go through the decision, we have time to do that if you guys are ready, or we will start that next week. So up to the commissioners.
I'm good for next week.
Okay,
What was that?
I said, I'm good for next week. I wanna take and digest all of this information first.
That's fine. So next week it'll be a short week because I know Commissioner Jordan has a 10 o'clock hard stop. I believe Commissioner French, you have 11 o'clock, you said. So we can make next week a short week. Again, we'll give you a revenue update. It's gonna be on property taxes primarily. Just to let you know if there's more money we have in the allocation bucket. And then that'll get us ready for the public roundtable next week as well. And then we will talk about the allocations and where you'd like to maybe start, and that may raise more questions of more people than you want to know.
so just so we're all clear, so for next Monday, what do you want us to have done? Cause I know
So-
we have this worksheet
That,
that has the departments,
The
we have the
department,
outside agency department, we have the.
well,
Lots of homework.
Which one
I would
do you,
say
I just wanna
those-
make sure we all
I
are on
would
the
say
same page.
those first two, the outside agency we'll
Okay.
start with, and then also the department one.
Okay,
But the department one also kind of dovetails into capital
Capital.
expenditures.
Yep.
Because if we
Whatever's
spend
left.
everything here,
Yep.
we have nothing left down there, so.
Correct.
We've only got one bucket, so we can hit outside agencies first, we'll then start on the departments.
Okay.
Which may raise more questions of having more people brought in.
Yep.
I don't think we will get to capital next week with the hard stops we have.
Okay.
Clarification question. So to Commissioner Walters' point about the departments who haven't yet done the exercise, so to speak, what's the scale of that list? If we're looking for, is that really every department that has an adjustment to target number? In the kind of
Not
general fund?
everyone, but most of the people that have an adjustment to target did not complete the exercise.
Meaning they didn't kind of give us
Any information.
picture of what a flat budget would look like.
Yes.
Maybe, is it easier for us to ask that which departments have said they're okay, they can live
Right.
within their 24 budget, 25? I assume that's a smaller list.
Yes.
So maybe we can just like check those off our list, like, okay, this one is good.
One up here.
From the, a decision guide.
Yeah.
And to the extent that we do get updates, whether it be sheriff or whomever, we'll get that to you as soon as we get those updates, and make sure we have it to you no later than Monday.
So Council for Defense did not submit any add backs to target. I believe they would request something. Emergency Management did not submit anything. I believe they would likely request something. Economic Development, pending your decisions on outside agencies on the lower bucket, should not need anything. Emergency Communications, that's the user fee from Shrek. That may need something added there. We just got a preliminary from them the other day, so we'll follow up on that next week. The hearing examiner did not submit anything, but likely needs dollars added back. Internal Services does not need anything added back. Law and Justice did not request anything to be added back. Non-departmental does not need anything to be added back. Same with outside agencies, pending your decision on outside agencies from your workbook.
And Law and Justice, we had that. We knew how to balance that, so we did not need anything back on that.
Purchasing does not need anything added back. They were able to submit under their target actually, due to some different circumstances in that department, so that's a positive. Risk management is the general fund's security for court scanning stations predominantly. And that may or may not, depending on whether we could close a security station on our campus, need to be added back in. The sheriff did not submit anything, and we likely anticipate they will be submitting something. And the treasurer, we have been working with them on getting some additional information back from them. So we're hoping that will be sent to you all by next week.
Okay, any questions about this, about the budget, what we need to? What we need, what each of us need to look at, go over before next Monday. Okay.
Also, if you could, commissioners, there's hey, did you send out the agenda? Talked about a little bit ago, the agenda for all of our workshops. that we
Yes.
Plan.
Those are in,
It's in the shared files, right?
it's in the shared file at the root at the highest directory where it says 20, it says, it's called upcoming budget meeting agendas. And it actually listed 9/9 through December 2nd on there. And for example, I've just updated the 9/23 agenda for next week.
So just take a look at that when you have time, you can see what the plan sequencing is, if there's things that you
think are missing or wanna see more of, just shoot Randy and Tessa, and we'll update the agenda accordingly. Just wanted to kind of give you some ideas of what's coming up.
General question. As we're sitting here today, the proposed budget does not have a vacancy adjustment. Is that
That
correct?
is correct. The budget, we did not define a separate vacancy adjustment. When we changed the direction second to last week of August, we added back all the cost of all the vacant positions into the budget because those department heads or elected officials would know best where they should make cuts, whether it is saying, I'm gonna have vacancies, so I don't need this much budget, or, I'm gonna fill them all, but I'm gonna have to cut M&O, or maybe I'm cutting a different program. We felt it was best. And I agree with that they are the experts in their field. Budget office is not experts. I don't know that the commission, you guys may be more experts than the budget office, but they are the experts and they need to define. So for example, we did have some departments come back to meet their budget saying, I don't need these positions, or I'm not going to, like detention, I'm not gonna fill this many COs. And they did it in tranches where they said, I'd really like to have this first tranche back, but these are all the ones I'm not going to fill. And they were vacancies, or some of them were actual positions that were being taken out.
So just big picture, last year, we did a vacancy adjustment that you guys worked individually with each department to kind of come up with a crystal ball number, right? We're so far not using that approach
No, that
this
is
year.
correct.
You basically said, we're gonna keep each department's budget flat, but then it varies by the department whether they're cooperating with that framework.
And
Is
and
that
I think that
fair?
and that's where you will, I think this other sheet will get you this week that shows the number of vacancies by year
Yeah.
from 2019. That's going to help because that helps. Well, if they've always had 12 vacant positions throughout a long period, the likelihood is they're gonna have some vacancies. They're not gonna be fully staffed the full year. Like, could be, they might have more staff, they might not always be at 12, but it gives you more insight into them.
Scott, Rick, kind of follow up to Commissioner Jordan's question. Do you recall any departments put vacancy adjustments in when they were, because we just left them, it's like you guys meet your target, whether it's staffing or M&O, you guys can figure it out, but did there?
Some did
Yeah.
take advantage of their vacant positions and yes, submitted those as part of their reduction, and then some asked for them back.
But they ask for them in different ways. For example, I'll just use detention services. They have 20 or 30 COs that are vacant. And they said, well, to meet last year's budget, I would have to not fill those 20 that are currently not filled. But they added them back in different tranches where it could have been 5 or 10. It's like, but I'd really like to have 10. That's my first ask back, is to put that back in the budget because I think I'm going to fill some, or whatever their reasoning was. But yes, some departments did say, I'm not going to fill all these positions. And that's how I would meet last year's budget. I think juvenile did the same thing. Where they said, I've been so under on COs. I'd really like to have more, but the likelihood is I'm not, and this is how I would fill that hole. But yes, we did not do a broad. So if they did not say, I think I'm gonna have a vacancy, we did not put one in for them.
All right, well, anything else on budget? For today. All right,
That's all.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the work. I know this, a lot of time goes into this, so thank you guys. Okay, that brings us to miscellaneous.
I got three items, if you don't mind, sir. So I think you all know in January of this year, I spent time with the District 10 Administrator for EPA. You know, about the condition and situation for PFAS on the West Plains. And he did indicate that there would be some resources coming down from EPA that might provide some help for us. Well, we just got notice, and I want to really go a shout out to Heather and Jeff, because they were the ones that found that EPA has now announced that they've got a grant. It's a 2-track grant for PFAS. And it looks like we can qualify for it. That would help with providing the filtration systems on the West Plains. It's actually the grant money's coming out of IIJA bill. It's a $2 billion grant. The submission is November 21st. And so I'm asking that the board would authorize Jeff and Heather to put together an application to apply for this. The first grant, about $2 million. And then the second track, it's about $20 million. And that would cover the cost for the filtration and get it to us conceivably even faster than going through the state. Now, I'll still submit a request for the state in case we don't get 100% support for the grant, but the grant would provide for community action plan, alternate water solution, which is, you know, the filtration systems, testing, food replacement, monitoring. And so that's a big win for us. And I just want to really do a shout out to Jeff and Heather. I know that they've been scouring to try and find grant applications and stuff that we would qualify for. And this is one of them that would clearly start to hit the mix and stuff. So Jeff, anything you want to say about this that I didn't?
Well, it's 2 billion, they say 10 to 20 million would be the target range asked for. Just gonna need board authorization. I thought for us to start working with Kyle's team. To gather the needed information to get an application in.
So so that's one. Then in talking about the when.
Do we have to, wait, I mean, I say, yeah, if the's money after the, you know,
Well,
after it, what do we?
My
What do
understanding
we
was
have
we
to
needed
do?
board approval to go for a grant. Is that correct? At least I had not.
Well, yeah, we need to, the board has a policy to accept grants.
Yeah.
You have to approve them to accept them, so we always like to make sure there's interest in going after the grant before we spend a lot of time into it. If you're not gonna accept a grant, we don't wanna spend a lot of time applying for it.
Do we have a third yes on?
I just have questions. So how much will we be applying for? Is it the 2 or the 10?
There's probably for the one that's 10 to 20, because that's the one that covers the subject matter Commissioner French just talked through. Ron, can you see if Heather's on? She might be able to answer some of these questions better. She's the one who saw this one come through last week. This is kind of like the BEAD money we've been following for broadband.
Right.
We've been hearing about it for years since the IIJA passed, and it's been being pushed back and back and back. It does appear now that this November 21st date, which just came out, at this appearance, it appears to be a hard date that will actually land. The 10 to 20 million range is the one that seems to make the most sense. It includes putting together the plan and then executing the plan. It's also, last I've been hearing, around about a $20 million need. But we would need to really run those numbers and do all the work it takes to put the grant together to see what it.
And a lot of the stuff we're doing for the state can be used for this grant. So all the inventorying and surveying and everything like that for people that want to be willing to use the filtration systems on their wells, that's what we're gathering for the state request. So the same information can be used for both applications.
We'd be working with Kyle's shop to gather the information that's already in place for other purposes, track down new information required by the grant, and then look to getting it submitted. The regular federal grant that goes in right before the holidays, I would expect we would not know on results until first quarter of next year. That's just my guess.
Commissioner Waldron.
Sorry, I missed the source of funds for this ecology grant.
It's not ecology, it's an EPA.
Oh, EPA grant. Okay.
That's coming through EPA, and it's the IIJA bill, the jobs bill that was passed by Congress. So that's where the funds are coming from. So again, we've always said the feds were the ones that created the problem. The feds ought to be the ones helping to provide the revenue to fix the problem, and so that's where the grant money is coming from.
Okay, well, it sounds like a good opportunity. I would just loop in, but maybe, and I'm sorry, my Zoom was having some problems, but did just John Colton, is he aware of it as well? Jeff, this particular grant?
Heather brought me up to speed this morning. She found it last week while I was out. So I have not talked to John about it. There's Heather. Heather, have you talked to John about it?
I just know he's looking at all sorts of grants, so it'd be good to add to the list.
We
So
definitely
that's,
worked with him, yes, in a federal grant on getting it in. I don't know if he's aware.
I have not talked to John.
I know that when I talked to John last week, he did not mention it, so I don't know whether this is something on his radar or not, but it's clearly a plus, and I just want to compliment Heather for being able to find it. So anyway, we got 3 head nods, and I mean, if we don't hear, then I'd suggest we get a hold of Mary and have her be the 3rd head nod if we can't get 3 here.
No, it's all, obviously we should do it. I'm just
Yeah.
asking about it to understand. I'm wondering, is Kyle's team already involved in the pricing, so to speak, of what the need is?
No, we've been working on the pricing with Chad Pritchard and some other suppliers, because that's Kyle doesn't play in this arena. So that's why we've been trying to get other sources that have already got experience in the West Plains and doing the filtration systems. And then with Chad Pritchard.
And just, I was wondering as well on the topic, I learned last week about and Commissioner French may know about this, the alternative drinking water program,
Yes.
which is apparently a state potential funding source. That some legislation was passed in 2023. Have we looked into that as a possibility? Do you know?
Oh, yeah, no, that program, the only thing, the challenge with that program is it just provides under sink filtration for your water, so you've got drinking water. But for the rural areas, it doesn't provide water for your garden. It doesn't provide water for your animals. It doesn't provide any irrigation water. That's why you need the filtration at the wellhead as opposed to under the sink. But that program's been in place for quite a while.
So we're receiving that in the county already? Is that?
No, those are individuals that work through the state health department.
Okay. And then on this EPA grant, do we think that it's best for the county to apply or the health district, or?
It requires a community partner, community 501c3 as a co-applicant. So we would need to identify a co-applicant.
So with and either one of the tribes could fit that need. because they also are a 501c3. But we can put that together, but it really should come from the county in terms of the strength of the county.
Okay.
That'd be my impression.
And does the health district have any 501c3 or are they purely governmental? But we do have to, there's two different, Heather just wanted to mention two different ways to qualify for that co-applicant, so we need to spend a little bit more time in that detail and bring that information.
Correct. It is either has to be a 501c3 or it has to have a letter from a state government stating that it's a recognized tribe or a recognized nonprofit entity.
I'm good with applying. I just asked the question
Yeah.
because we were discussing that in the context of that state act or legislative piece.
Yeah. So you got 3 head nods.
Okay, so Heather and I we'll start bothering you, Kyle.
Okay. So that's one. Thank you very much. Appreciate the support. And then 2, I had the opportunity to talk to Mary Dye, Representative Dye yesterday, and she provided for me a amendment that she's going to be submitting to the legislature with regard to citing wind turbine farms and solar panel farms and requesting that process ultimately stays with the county and not with the state. And so this is something that would mean that the state, if the county decided one way with regard to how they wanted to address it, they could not be usurped by the state. And so that's a bill. I do have the language and I can distribute the language. I was going to also distribute it to Mike Burgess and make sure that he was aware of it. If in fact, we had 3 people on the board that wanted to try and add this to our policy agenda. So that's, getting to 3 is probably the best I'm going to do. But I understand that. So
Happy to look at any language.
yeah, any language, that's right, yes, it's stuff, so. I know that he would rather have it stay with the governor, so,
We'll see.
yeah, we'll see.
Love to see the language.
I will get it to you today, yeah.
Thank
And then, my third, miscellaneous item, and I think we can discuss it in open session, but if not, be happy to go to executive session, is, there's a lot of conversation going on now in the community about satelliting homeless communities and homeless shelters and homeless facilities. And some of that conversation is going outside of the city of Spokane as opposed to just inside the city of Spokane and stuff. So I think as a group, we would want to have a conversation about how do we as a board want to play in that conversation, if at all. I've been asked by 2 small cities in my district, what can the county do to help us? And, other than showing up at a press release, I don't know that there is a role that we can play, but I'd certainly like to explore it because small cities, my guess is Mary's, Commissioner Cooney's going to be in the same situation and Commissioner Kearns with Deer Park, but the small cities don't have the revenue necessary to take on more challenges, and it will stress their public safety efforts. It will stress the resources on the community. And so I was asked this weekend, what can the county do to help us? And so I raised the question. I don't have any answers yet. I've got some ideas, but no answers. And but it's becoming more of a concern. So that's my third item. Thank you.
Chris?
Yep, I got one thing, to put on the board's radar. I don't know how aware of this everybody already is. But as to the, proposed changes, in the court rules for indigent defense and indigent defense standards, the Supreme Court is holding the public hearing on September 25th. They have formally invited, WASAC, the Association of Prosecuting Attorneys, and a number of other, organizations to speak to that issue. But if anybody on the board wanted to individually or ahead of that collectively come up with, a statement, it does require signing up ahead of time in order to speak at that hearing. So wanted to bring that up for the board's consideration if individually or collectively the board wanted to have a statement or
So is this, I mean, it's too bad Commissioner Cooney isn't here because this has got to be an extension of the lawsuit between WASAC and the state on indigent defense.
Yes, to some degree, yeah, it's certainly related. This is the proposed rules that came out, I think it's about 4 to 6 months ago now, that would cut public defense caseload standards effectively in half and add a number of other requirements. That's what this public hearing is to decide, and what the Supreme Court is actually going to implement out of those proposed changes.
Is prosecuting attorney going to participate in this?
I have not, I think they are looking at it and determining that and talking to the State Association of Prosecutors. Obviously, the State Association will be appearing at the hearing and making comments as to that. So I think they're coordinating right now to see how the association wants to handle that, and whether individual prosecutors will also be signing up to testify.
I can reach out to the WASAC legal team today and maybe get an update for tomorrow
Yeah,
and have more information about, is this negotiating? Is this posturing? What is it? So I'll find out and get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other miscellaneous? Any miscellaneous, Commissioner Waldron?
Oh, I was just gonna make a note that on the Tuesday, the 24th, some of you probably got a invitation. Hello for Good is hosting the former mayor of Houston, who worked on getting their homeless system set up. And I think it's 8 to 10 a.m. on the Tuesday morning. So I hope to attend that. So I might miss part of briefing that morning, but I just wanted to highlight that she's coming to town, and should be interesting to hear her perspective on how she got regional organization in Houston like 12 years ago, 15 years ago. So just wanted to highlight that it's a downtown breakfast, 8 to 10 a.m. And then I think she's available to meet with folks and business leaders and electeds over the course of the day and the next morning. So should be interesting. I'm glad that they're able to bring her to Spokane.
Maybe when you get back from the breakfast, you can give us a rundown on how it went.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then I'm hoping to join her for lunch or the next morning, just to, get to ask some more specific questions. So it'll be interesting. I've only, heard her speak on the different videos that have been done, about the Houston model. So just wanted to highlight that, Tuesday, the 24th of September.
Anything else? Pat, anything we need to be aware of on the media front?
Nothing hot at the moment. That always can change. I'll have 2 items for you in your inboxes this afternoon, a draft of a mail postcard and a draft of a utility insert, and it'll be before the board with the budget item, but that can wait till tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, if that's it, nobody else has anything for the good of the order. It is 10:46 and we are adjourned for the day. See you tomorrow.